Good morning. Welcome to the 2020-21 Summit. Our speaker this morning, you are in for a treat. He really doesn't need an introduction. Mr. Terrence Popp has a great YouTube channel, and his website is redonkulous.com. With no further talking, I'd just love to bring him on stage. Get ready, take notes. Mr. Terrence Popp.
How y'all doing? You gotta bear with me, gentlemen. I was out drinking last night and my check liver light went on, so slow me down a little bit. Me too. All right, I'm gonna start off a little joke here. I'm a big father's rights, men's rights kind of guy. So when I hear all of the talking about these single mothers out there who think they should do away with Father's Day because there's way more of them than there are actual fathers. Now, statistically speaking, they would be correct. And it's probably not because the fathers don't want to be around, they were just driven off. So most men, if you're like me, you really don't give a crap about punctuation. It's just some annoyance that happens in the Microsoft Office program when you're typing up whatever you're doing, especially commas. Commas, to me, is nothing more than a suggestion. So father is spelled F-A-T-H-E-R. Why can't we just put a comma in the middle and just say fat her? Kill two birds with one stone. I hope that pisses him off, because it's true. Okay, let's see. Well, for those of you that don't know, I did 33 years in the military, 12 Guard Reserve, the rest of it active duty. I did a lot of the cool stuff that most people would like to do. I was an airborne ranger, Green Beret, paratrooper. I did 3 wars. I was almost killed in 2. And luckily, I didn't die. I make fun of it. You know, I make jokes in regards to people who have one leg. I call them a circle walker. And somebody who's only one arm is a circle swimmer. Well, I got my brain pan shook pretty bad, so I'm a circle thinker. So one of the side effects that I have is I don't sleep for shit. Most people think, oh, that's terrible. Well, just imagine if you didn't have to sleep 8 hours a day, say you only just sleep 3 or 4. Well, guess what? I got an additional 20 to 25% to plot and scheme to take over the world. It is awesome. All right, I'm going to set the stage here for you, what we as men are looking forward to. Okay, as you know, the stats for first marriages, 50% of them end in divorce. Second marriages, 63% end in divorce. Third marriages, 73 to 75% end in divorce. And 80% of those divorces are filed by, you guessed it, women. So, those are some terrible circumstances and thick odds that stand against you, especially if you don't have a prenup, which doesn't really mean anything nowadays, or you have children. Because 85% of the time, no matter what happens, that woman is getting custody of those children, and you are not. Some guy in some robes is going to pound a hammer somewhere and tell you, hey, you had your kids 365, 24/7, but now you get to see them 4 days a month, and you're going to pay out your ass. Now, and this is the part I find hilarious. I'm paying child support for kids I don't get to see, and basically I'm financing the roof over their head and the revolving door in the front and back as the parade of dudes come through there after I'm out of the way. Does anybody else here think that's it's kind of shitty? Because, yeah, I got you. All right, since this is going to be on YouTube, I'm going to try to cut down on the swearing. I'm going to use a certain code that I was forced to use when I was in civil affairs because, the Army started to go all politically correct and get all upset. All right, so I'm going to start off here. The human being comes in two models. One male, one female. Both of them are relatively similar. Slot A. This is where you put food in there. I call it slot A because that's the first letter of the acronym Assisted Super Stupid. Because if they don't know you're an idiot and you open your mouth and you start talking, well, it's just a matter of time before people figure it out. The second one is slot B. That's where the food comes out when you're done digesting it. And that's the first letter of an acronym back under taint. Now, we're going to get into the male model, which has a PEG D, which is the first letter of the acronym Deployable Inseminator Carrier Kit. And of course, we have the slot C, which is the female version, which stands for Can't Understand Normal Thinker. All right, now, a lot of women out there are going to get upset. I don't care. Because let's face it, when you're dealing with a creature that makes decisions based on emotions, which change on a whim and are not really related to the real world, that's exactly what that acronym stands for. All right. Now, in my 33 years in the military, I have seen thousands of men train wreck their lives in very similar ways. Now, when I say train wreck your life, I mean homeless, unemployed, because that is exactly what happened to these people. A lot of them are very young. They come in the military at 18, get married at 19, divorced at 20, stay in the military until their first enlistment's over, get out because they have to chase the baby mother all over the United States. And I was guilty of this myself, and I'm sure many of you out there are guilty of this as well. Selecting women strictly on looks. Listen, I'm a fan of tits and ass just like anyone else out there. All right? I've got my own story. And I've also noticed that a lot of men who come from single mother homes like myself have a really weird sense of what the ideal woman looks like for them. And most of the time, that ideal woman is unobtainable. And even if you do obtain it, you don't own it. It's just your turn. All right, that's a brutal truth. Now, I myself, when I was 16, had a very traumatic incident happen where I was basically shacked up with a chick that I was lucky enough to run across who was graduated from high school, so I considered myself a stud. And things were happening on the living room couch, and all of a sudden, guess who appears? Not my mother. No, that's bad enough. My grandmother shows up, catches me with body parts exposed, leaves the house, and here's the worst part. She's married to my grandfather, who's a minister. Can it get any worse than that? So for weeks, I avoided going over there. And finally, I was forced to go to the Sunday dinner. And my grandfather shows up at the front door to answer it when we're walking up in his collar and everything. And I love that guy because this is what he did. He opened the door and he's just like, I knew I was golden. I knew I was golden. Because I thought I was going to get lectured up one side, down the other. And I remember my aunt, after we got done eating dinner that night, started setting in on me about what I had done. And I just looked at her and I said, listen, I like slutty women. And my grandfather right behind me said, hey, he has his preferences. At least we know he's not gay. So needless to say, I've been following my pecker up until the age of 34. That's another saying I came up with, is most of the men out here are dick thinking between the ages of 13 and 34. Now, I don't know about you, but that little head hanging on the end of your peg D is making decisions for you that is train wrecking your life. The end of that little head's got 7, 8 square centimeters of nerve endings. And it's got the hole at the end where all the bad decisions come out. But somehow it's ruining your lives and it's running your lives. So gentlemen, my job here is try to get you to get beyond the dick thinking phase before you train wreck your lives. All right? Because by the time I got to 34 and I realized, and it was crazy because I hadn't been divorced yet. And I just got back from Iraq. And I remember I'm writing checks for bullshit because my ex-wife wanted to keep up with the Joneses, which is just a recipe for more drama. And I remember I'm sitting down there writing the check and I'm like, are those titties worth this? I don't think they are. And that was the beginning of the end. Because after that, I was still jacked up in the brain pan, and my ex-wife decided to go cuckoo for Cocoa Penis Puffs. There was a couple of kielbasa's in there, an Italian sausage, it was a couple of egg rolls. It was unrecoverable. And allegedly, there might have been a whole fire department. I don't know, it's a lot of Eskimo brothers if you ask me, but what are you gonna do? Now, it's one of my weaknesses. I love a good 15, front bumper with 10 to 15 mile an hour rear bumper, preferably with a red hair model, but I also go for Latino women. I have a weakness for that. I'm just being honest. So when I catch myself in those situations now, at my age, I remember I'm like, all right, she's got the curves of a 76 Corvette. Everything looks good. There are more things I need to check out here before I decide if I'm going to let this person into the inner sanctum, or it's just going to be a casual thing. Now, there's nothing wrong with casual things. I'm not a super religious person, and it is what it is. It is what it is, as long as you're honest up front with them, and you avoid bad karma that way. I'm a firm believer in karma because I've seen it work up close and personal. Next thing. Man, I just going off today like a goddamn fire hose here. All right. As the first sergeant, it is my job to issue passes, discipline soldiers, counsel them, which I did on thousands of occasions. And I can't tell you how many times I had a 19-year-old hua show up in front of my desk asking me for a 4-day pass because she's getting married on Friday. And I'll be like, really? Getting married? Huh. Where'd you meet this girl? Oh, I met her at Peepers. She's a cocktail waitress. Like, oh, okay. That's great. I pull out the pass paperwork and filling it out. I pulled out the yellow pages, go to the divorce attorneys. I knew a guy in the area. I write his number at the top. I hand it to him after I sign it. I was allowed to do that as a first sergeant. And he's like, First Sergeant, what is this number? I'm like, oh, that's a number to your divorce attorney you're going to need in 18 to 24 months because that's what's going to happen. And sure as shit, 18 months later, and I heard all of the train wreck bullshit that was going on in this young soldier's life. 18 months later, standing in front of my desk, singing the blues. And I'm like, all right, this is what we're going to do for you, Hess. You're moving back into barracks, and we're going to start that allotment for the divorce attorney. Oh, here's your old past paperwork. There's the phone number. Call him. I've done that dozens of times. And a few of them I was actually able to talk these young bucks back from the brink of basically destroying themselves. All right, now here's another favorite maneuver that I like that women usually will pull. And it's almost like clockwork. When they're walking back from the altar after they've been married, you can see it happening. Before they get to the door of the church, they reach into their cleavage and they pull the pin on the fat grenade and they blow the heck up. Try not to swear. And that's where you wind up with a lot of fupa and fuba issues. And the fupa is the fat upper pussy area. That causes a lot of problems. And the difference between that and the fat upper belly area is you got to hold one up to get at the goodies. Otherwise, it'll break your neck. That's terrible. And I don't know how some of these soldiers stay married to these women after they do that, because I personally consider that a betrayal. I mean, even if they have a kid and they fall back on the, it's baby weight. Okay, well, it took you, 9 months to gain that weight. It should take you 9 months to lose the weight, not 9 years. Because after the 9-month mark, it goes from baby weight to fat. Okay, now, people are like, oh, you're fat shaming. I really don't keep a lot of fat people around in my inner sanctum because, my ex-wife was 3 of them. Like I said, most of this shit most of the stuff I'm telling you guys, I did it myself. I'm not some sanctimonious, douchebag telling you guys stuff that I myself have no experience with. All right, so here's the second one here. A lot of these guys ignore the woman's history. All right, now, listen, we all have a smartphone, which means you are $38 to $62 away from doing a background search on said woman that you want to have in your life. Okay, if you don't do that, you're a lazy ass and you did it to yourself. Okay, it's worth the investment. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had soldiers who shack up with these ladies that have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in student loans and maybe $15,000 in credit cards. In fact, this is actually crazy. As a first sergeant, I usually deal with enlisted guys, right? Had a full bird colonel. I walk in there to his office. This new squeeze is coming through there, and she looks fine. I sit him down. I'm like, hey, sir, what's going on here? Tell me the deal. Because he'd been divorced for 3 years. I'm like, are you really going to do this again? Because your first wife is already getting half your retirement. Are you going to risk the rest of it? Pull a background check on this woman. And he did. $75,000 student debt for some bullshit degree that only pays, $30,000 to $40,000 a year. Okay, with that kind of money that you're making on the back end, it's just not economically viable to do that. And I got him to pull back from the brink and, not actually commit to this lady and do the string along method, which I made a whole video on. I taught him how to do that as well. But my thing is this. Almost always, the minute you pay off the last dollar she owes, guess what's going to happen? You're no longer the nice guy. You just helped her out. She's going to monkey branch right to the next penis and leave you in the dust. Okay? And you put in all that monumental effort to pay off her stuff, she's gone. One of my best friends, named Richard Dorn, he's dead now, did that for his wife. He paid off her debt, put her through college and law school. 6 weeks after she graduated, she divorced him, and I had to watch him drink himself to death for the following 15 years. It was very painful. Okay, this guy was like my best friend. I met him when he was 8 years old. All right. Let's see. All right. Also, when you're doing that background check, see if they've actually have a good job. Now, typically, like I said, you guys are visual creatures. Come on, man. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. All right? I mean, it shouldn't be on you all to pay the bills, make the money, and be the provider anymore, because feminism has won and men and women are equal. They should be able to have a decent job and pull in some cash, even if they had kids. I don't care. All right. Anybody ever here watch Animal Planet or Discovery? Every once in a while you'll see a show on poisonous snakes, spiders, frogs. Almost always, Mother Nature puts warnings to the rest of the world about these animals because these animals have crazy color schemes. Purple, blue, green, orange. I mean, some of those arrow frogs, you so much as touch them and lick your tongue, you are deader than you're dead. So, whenever a soldier would show up and this girl would have a crazy hair or she'd have sleeves of tattoos and you could see, I'd pull them aside like, hey, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Are you not aware of the poisonous schemes that Mother Nature gives to warn people? This woman right here is flaunting to the world that she's not playing cards with, 52 cards in the deck. She's got maybe 48. Are you going to gamble against that? Really? Half your shit? Jail? Craziness? Domestic abuse? All right. So basically what I'm telling you, gentlemen, listen, if these chicks have tattoos here or there, that's really not a big deal. But if they have whole sleeves and their weird color hair, you don't need that. Has anyone heard of the woman Big Red? Yes. The feminist that just screams the most vile shit at people. Her hair is Ronald McDonald red. So the minute you see something like that, you just do an about face and leave. Don't even talk to it. Because it's not going to take you anywhere good. All right, now here's another one. When you do that background check, now this is going to sound a little petty, but it's very relevant. Check their driving record. Do they have a DWI, reckless driving? Have they crashed a bunch of cars inside an 18-month period? I call that HCCI, which is habitual car crash-itis. Because purchasing and owning a car is, for most people, probably the second or third largest purchase they make in their lives. And if this woman can train wreck a car 3 times in 18 months, what do you think she's going to do with your life? She's going to drive you into a ditch, financial ruin, bankruptcy, okay? Also, the reckless driving, DWI, that is just going to be more problems down the road, and it's better just to hit it and quit it, run it through other gears, park, stop it, neutral, slam it, flip it over, leave it in the ditch, dripping fluid from the front and back in Section 8 housing right where you found it. A lot of women are going to get pissed off, but that's the truth. Next one. Domestic violence. All right. Now, back in the day, in the 60s, if you severely tooled up your woman and there's, face bruising or she's injured, went to the hospital, okay, that's straight up domestic violence. I'm not a fan of that, right? But that has been expanded to the point where anything you do is domestic violence. Take away a credit card, domestic violence. Limit her money because you checked her background and she had a bunch of debt and she's not good with money, domestic violence. All right. Say she's kicking the shit out of you and you grab her hands to restrain her from hurting you, domestic violence. So keep this in the back of your minds. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if this woman has used domestic violence against another man in her past, she's got a taste of that power. She picked up the phone, called the cops, said, oh, he hit me, he's in jail. And they're gonna give that dude, 3 feet up his slot B. He's gonna get the government green weenie, and it's not gonna be good. And she's gonna realize how easy it was to do that, and she'll do it again. The minute she can, or she sees an advantage, you're gonna get cuffed and stuffed. And usually if you get arrested for that, depending upon what state you're in, it's gonna cost you between $15,000 and $18,000 to get out from underneath that, and you may or may not spend anywhere from 15 to 45 days in jail. And good luck trying to sue the county to get your money back. And don't you dare take a plea deal, because what they usually do is they plead it down to some minor bullshit, maybe a $500 ticket, but they attach the domestic abuse label to that, and they take away your guns almost every time. So does that sound like something that you want in your life, gentlemen? Hell no. All right, there's another one here. And I made a whole word covering this one. Narbipolarbagistic stands for all of the crazy bullshit that women suffer today. I don't even care what they say. Like if I'm talking to a woman and the minute she says, I have OCD, I just immediately, every word after her mouth after that is nothing but narbipolarbagistic. She's crazy. All right. Did you know that 1 in 4 ladies out there is taking head meds of some type? And that stat is 10 years old. As a betting man, I would bet 1 in 3 are. So, do you really want to have a bunny burner in your life, gentlemen? Because guess what? Men get woken up in the middle of the night with scalding oil and other crazy ass shit. I myself, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, crazy pussy's the best pussy. It does great cheetah flips. It is unbelievable until the pussy wears out. And then all you're left with is crazy. What the hell are you going to do then? All right, you're stuck. You're stuck. So my thing is this. You go over to a woman's house, go to the bathroom, lock the door, do a quick cursory search for her meds, which will be in the medicine cabinet. And if you see things like, I don't know, Paxil, Wellbutrin, lithium, hell, even check for, some of the herpes medications they have, because they'll be in there. And that will let you know right off the bat what you're dealing with. Because I'm going to be honest, I ignored the crazy ones, gentlemen. Beautiful, beautiful Mexican woman. Great, it was great. Went out with her for 6 weeks. All right, I come back from the field. I go to see her. I called ahead, so it was not going to be surprising her or anything. She lived on the 2nd floor of an apartment building. I'm walking up the stairs. She comes out with a baseball bat with gutter nails in it. There was no communicating. She was swinging for the fences. I went over the railing, did a combat roll, and left and never went back. Okay, that could have been me. I could be the guy who got punctured up pretty bad with a baseball bat full of gutter nails, then arrested for domestic violence and thrown in jail. Because I'm sure they'd be like, well, he was here to hurt me. Yeah, right. All right, so if you ignore the crazy, gentlemen, you're going to win the following: cash and prizes. False abuse charges, false rape accusations, false paternity tests or pregnancy scares, destroy all your shit, jail, prison, death. Does that sound like something you guys want in your lives? I don't think so. All right. Now, the reason I do what I do, for the number one reason, is I give these talks and I run redonkulous.com because I want to keep people from putting the shotgun in their mouth. Because this shit is killing men. It is an epidemic, and no one's talking about it. It's killing veterans, killing men in general. And when was the last time you read anything in the mainstream media about the rash of male suicides out there? Anybody? Anybody? That's what I thought. I think conferences like this are very important, and I wish we had more people attending because they need to hear this from guys who've actually walked the road and seen the absolute carnage that our modern, supposedly civilized world has created, all in the name of female equality. I'm just not seeing it. All right. So before I roll out of here today, you guys have any questions of me in regards to this briefing? This is very similar to the briefing I gave most of my new soldiers that showed up when I was on active duty. Okay, the ones that didn't get this briefing were the female soldiers. They got a whole different briefing. One that was politically correct, and it is what it is. Any questions? What you got?
Back here, up here.
You can get on the mic. They probably need to hear it.
All right. Is this working? Nope.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can't hear me. Oh, cool. You're familiar with the Duluth model of domestic violence, right?
I sure am. Did a whole video on that.
All right. So it's been my observation that the way that was constructed, it's more projection than reflection, and that it's a really good description of the way women abuse men. Do you find that to be the case?
Yes, I do. I know lots of guys who are stuck in the blue pill mind, happy wife, happy life. And a lot of the stuff that takes place in the Duluth model plays out in their households all the time. Okay, like a lot of times the guy comes back, hands his whole check over to the wife, and she's the one dishing out the money and doing all the crazy stuff. And, and if you're going to call her a domestic abuser, good luck with that, but they'll do it to a dude.
Appreciate it.
All right, no problem, no problem.
Hey, Terrence, appreciate your speech. Wonder if it would be okay for the benefit of the men in the audience. I'm a lawyer by trade and have been through divorce myself with false domestic abuse allegations, and I'd be happy to give them the cliff notes of just how deep and dark this can get.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick. So, man, my erstwhile ex-wife, after a heated argument, was kind enough to physically assault me. And so I left the house to prevent myself from doing something stupid. Come back the next day, and I told her, I was like, you realize you committed a crime, right? And her words chilled my blood and do to this day. And I quote, well, it's a good thing you didn't, because if you had, I would have told the police whatever I needed to tell them to make sure that you went to jail and I didn't, and they would have believed me because I'm a pretty girl.
Correct.
Real talk. And by the way, if you are charged with domestic violence, there is a 273% chance you will be found guilty of something. She doesn't have to say that you hit her. All she has to say is, I am in fear. She can also go to so-called civil court, which is not civil at all, and she can get a temporary restraining order and have that granted without you even having the opportunity to appear and defend yourself. And by the time you get to show up for a hearing on this, even though you're supposed to be presumed innocent, you've already been found guilty functionally at least once. So, and this is just a short version, and he's dead right. If you plead guilty to so much as a misdemeanor offense in all 50 states, you permanently lose your gun rights. Permanently. You can't get them back. So that is the Cliff Notes version of what happens if you stick your dick in crazy, and that's just how it is, guys. It's real out there, and you ignore that at your own risk. And fun fact, even though I am a lawyer and I was domestically abused, it still cost me well into the 5 figures, even though I had a legal right to half her retirement and savings and everything else, because she made more money than me at the time. It cost me 5 figures to get out of there, because all I wanted was the Tina Turner divorce, right? I wanted my name, my stuff, and out. She was in it for distance and irritation. And so that's what it cost me to get out of there. Still the best money I ever spent, but it could have been much worse in a big hurry. And if that could happen to someone like me, it can happen to any of you. So if you see any of the stuff he's talking about, sprint. Do not walk in the opposite direction. It will save your life. Thank you.
And may God have mercy on your soul. Holy shit. All right. Well, that's me, gentlemen. I'm glad you liked it. Again, I'm just sharing life advice, mistakes I made myself, and trying to keep you guys from starting a shotgun. Because very few people are out there fighting the good fight. I'm one of them. You guys take it easy.